Welcome back to In the Harbor, the podcast where sports, leisure, and finance meet. I'm your host, Jason Johns, joined today by my co-host, Scott Lindsay. Scott, what's new?
Well, Happy New Year. Certainly excited about jumping on today with you, Jason. It's always a pleasure to ride along as your co-pilot.
And we've had you on a few lately, so you're getting back into the rotation. You know, you were a little iffy at first. But
Well, it's a little bit of a comfort level, right? You guys seem to think that I can do this, and I seem to think that no one wants to hear me. But let's see what happens.
Right. Well, you have a face for radio, so that makes sense.
I've been told that my whole life.
And today we're joined by our guest, Brent Centlivre, who's with Lindblad Expeditions. I'm excited about this episode. I've always seen the advertisements looking through National Geographic of all the amazing destinations that they go to. And he's going to talk to us today a little bit about his background and then more about Lindblad and what they're focused on.
Jason, Scott, it is great to be here. Thank you so much for including me. It's a real honor. Thank you.
So just for clarifications, like that is a backdrop. You're not really filming from the deck of a Lindblad expedition ship somewhere in the Arctic?
No, absolutely. I mean, I live in Orlando, Florida. So I have to constantly remind myself that there are places on Earth where it's actually cold. So yes, I use the Antarctica backdrop.
Love it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Brent, I think to kick it off, let's hear a little bit about your background because it's kind of interesting, your evolution to Lindblad.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. So I grew up in the Midwest. I know you've got a lot of folks that are Midwest lovers or residents. I was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then moved to downtown Chicago, which I consider my home, at least my hometown. So grew up there. My dad was in advertising growing up, and I remember one day he said, "Hey, I know someone that could get you a job at Disney. Would you like to work there?" And I said, "No, I have no desire." I went to school at University of Illinois in Champaign. My goal in life was I'm going to be a lawyer, and I didn't do very well in the LSAT. So after I did not do well in the LSAT, I told my dad, I'm like, you know what? You mentioned something about Disney. I wouldn't mind spending the summer down there. And so I worked for Disney for a summer and came back to Illinois to finish up my degree. And then had the opportunity to go back to Disney. And so I spent 28 years at Disney, had a lot of different places where I worked. And really, really special. Predominantly, I was in the travel industry, which I've really, really enjoyed traveling when I was young. And then it's certainly been great, throughout my career to be part of the travel business.
So at Disney, you were involved on the cruising aspect of it from the travel, correct?
Yeah. One of my first roles is I was on the opening team of Disney Cruise Line. And so it is amazing. I know, your focus on your podcast is, talking about business, talking about finance. So you can imagine being, I think, a 23-year-old kid as part of a startup within Disney. And that was Disney Cruise Line. And it was really a special time. So to be able to be part of a startup within Disney, that fast-paced culture, building a business that is one of their revenue drivers of today, is really, really special. It was a great way to start off my Disney career.
Were you able to be a part of the evolution of Castaway Key and that evolution of cruise lines acquiring their own islands in the Caribbean as one of the stops?
Yeah. It's funny you mention it, Scott. One of my claims to fame is that I actually named the beach on the adult island, on the adult beach on that island called Serenity Bay. And I was so young, like there was only like 60 people that worked at Disney Cruise Line, and they had a contest, and I put down all these names, including Serenity Bay, and then they picked it. And so if you go to Castaway Key, you'll see Serenity Bay, and you can think of me.
That's amazing. And that was before you had ChatGPT to help you with your creativity. So
Yeah, exactly.
A good old-fashioned name contest, right? Always wins.
Yeah, old school, emailing it in.
Well, Serenity Bay sounds fantastic.
I've actually stayed there. And again, if you go and you're fortunate enough to book in advance, because they do fill up quite quickly. But for folks that don't like a crowd, Serenity Bay is literally just the people who are in that section. And again, if it's an adult only, there's no kids, so it's a little quieter. So it feels like a completely different experience on the same exact island.
Oh, that's great. So that gave you your first taste of the cruising world.
Yeah.
And then let's think about the evolution to Lindblad, and then I'd love to get into it. I was just looking over all the offerings on the website.
Oh. Yeah, it's great. You know, one of the things, I mean, when I joined Disney Cruise Line, I worked in our parks for a period of time. And so going into the cruise industry was brand new to me. I mean, I'm like, wow, this was really, really great. And I think there's something very powerful about being on the water and going to different destinations in the world. It's really, really fantastic. And what I learned, especially since I came to Lindblad, is that there really is a cruise experience for everyone. So there are certain people who are like, you know, hey, I just want to gamble all day. I want to have a, all you can drink package. And that's what I want to do on a cruise. And there are cruises that will do that for you. And then, even for something like a Disney, where it's like, hey, I really want to do kind of an upscale opportunity with my family where everybody can be involved. We feel like we're at a high level place. Disney does an exceptional job of creating incredible memories. And then you get something like Lindblad Expeditions and National Geographic Lindblad Expeditions. And it's almost the complete opposite. I mean, what I talk about is, when you watch commercials on TV, or if you've been on a cruise before, it's all about the ship, right? When you see the Carnival or the Royal Caribbean ads, it's all about the water slides and how big the ship is. And hey, you get 6,000 guests on board. And all of these things that are all around the ship. For expedition travel and for Lindblad, it's all about the destination. It's all about going to Antarctica with 100 people. It's about sailing the Nile with 48 people. And so you really get these immersive experiences that are very, very different than going on a, large scale ocean cruise.
Not too long ago, we had someone I think you're familiar with, Jen Lee from TPI on, and that's exactly what she was talking about with her advisors, that the evolution of vacations from trips to experiences, right? And I think that's where we've seen the companies like Lindblad National Explorer really being able to push into that. The evolution is ongoing. What are you excited about right now in that space and what you're doing? Like, what's the difference, as you look forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, the way we look at it is expedition travel is kind of where river cruising was 10 years ago. Now a lot of people do river cruises. I think just people now are being able to see, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that there's companies that do go to Iceland or do go to Antarctica or the Galápagos. And I think a lot of people, especially I would imagine, given the audience of this podcast, where you've got a lot of financial advisors, you've got a lot of people that might be in their 60s, 70s, and you know what? They've been to the Caribbean 50 times. They've gotten their hair braided. They've rented the motor scooter, and they're like, what else is there? And when they realize, oh my gosh, I can be taken to Europe or I can be taken to Antarctica, but with National Geographic, and they're the ones that are going to teach me, and they're the ones who are going to share their knowledge and answer my questions. That's a big draw for people. And especially too, if people love photography. I think, we all grew up about the same generation where we grew up with the National Geographic magazine, right? You'd go to your grandma's house and she'd have a stack of them. And, people were motivated to take pictures because of those magazines. And on our ships, we have a certified National Geographic photographer on every one who will help you take better pictures or loan out their equipment. So it's really a special experience.
And what would you say the typical traveler is? An experienced cruiser who then wants to get into expeditions, like you said? Or is it somebody who's just very cerebral and wants to learn? Is there a true kind of mark of what makes a perfect candidate for a expedition cruise?
Yeah, Jason, that's a really good question. When I first joined, I figured, yeah, it'll be somebody that has done kind of all these mass market cruises and then they finally want to do expedition. But what I found, and I talked to a lot of consumers, is that there's a lot of people who are like, I don't like to cruise. I don't like that idea, but I do like Lindblad. And I think when they say that, they mention it because they don't like the idea of being on a ship with 3,000 people, but they like the idea of being on with 70, 100. And I think that's something that's very special. They are generally well traveled. I mean, there's not going to be too many people that are calling us that are buying one of our experiences saying, hey, I've never been out of the country and I want to go to Antarctica. It's probably not going to happen. So they're usually well traveled. They usually love the outdoors. These are people that like to hike, they like to golf, they like to boat, they get joy from being outside. And then, Jason, I think you said it right. It's people that do love to learn. They're really drawn into, oh my gosh, I get to learn from experts like at National Geographic. But even like my wife and I, when we went to the Galapagos, and this was my first time on Lindblad last year, and it was really, really cool to be on board and just to be. It felt like adult summer camp. I mean, you're doing activities all throughout the day. You are learning things. You're seeing incredible wildlife. So it's really an incredible experience.
Well, and you also have the history tied to it, right? For anyone who is a Darwin fan, right? This is where he did his best work, right? Where, so kind of walking in the footsteps, or where you go into the Arctic, right? And you've only read about people who have ever been there. To be able to go there and have those experiences is amazing.
Yes. Yes.
What boat was that on? Was that on the, because I was looking at all of the offerings.
Yeah, the one that we have 4 ships that are in the Galapagos as an example. I was on the Endeavor 2, which is our largest.
That's 148.
96 guests.
Oh, 96 guests. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So are they also combination research and expedition in some cases?
Yes. We do have, some National Geographic explorers will be on board conducting science experiments on board, which is very cool. But what I'd like too is for our main areas in the world where we go, we have family programs. And that's really special because then your kids get the opportunity, or your grandkids get the opportunity to do science experiments with our naturalists, with our scientists on board. And again, for some of the people that might be listening to this, they may have clients that are maybe scientists or PhDs or doctors or lawyers. And they're thinking, gosh, what can I do with my family that I can inspire my kids so they're putting down their iPhone? And that's what's really cool about expedition, because you can't be on your iPhone when you're stand-up paddleboarding or when you're doing, these incredible hikes. So that's something that I think also draws in families that they may not have known that, National Geographic has these family programs on these expedition cruises.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I was looking at the interior photos from some of the ships, though, there is kind of they're very well appointed, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you blend that luxury kind of comfort and remote rugged adventure?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I came in, Jason, I didn't know very much about the expedition space, to be honest. I spent most of my career in travel, but this was something very new to me. And my misconception was, oh, expedition, just that word sounds dirty, right? But everything, like you said, was really well appointed. It is because the people that are taking our expeditions and our experiences, they've got a premium level of comfort, right? They want to make sure they've got great food, great rooms, and that's what we are here to deliver. And I think we've done a really exceptional job. I don't think that we're luxury. You're not going to get a 6-course meal from us. You're not going to have butler service. We're much more casual. I think that's what people really like. I'll give you a note, Scott and Jason, I think you'd appreciate. When I took my wife, we went to the Galapagos, and she said, we went down to the dining room, and she's like, look at all the women in here. And I go, I don't know what that means. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? She goes, look at how many women here have wet hair. I still didn't know what she meant. She goes, we've never been on a cruise, or probably never been on a vacation, where half the women had their hair in a wet and in a ponytail. And that's because on expedition, you're busy. You're doing activities all day. You might be going to seminars. You don't have 3 hours to get ready for dinner. So you've got people showing up for dinner just in their Columbia sportswear or maybe a t-shirt and jeans. And that is, for many people, a nice draw that you do get great rooms, you do get great food, but it's in a relaxed atmosphere because you are, at the end of the day, exploring all these regions on Earth.
So I mean, that story conjures up an idea. What would you say? You've been on a few expeditions now since you joined. Any stories you can say, either animal sightings or interactive kind of excursions that you could talk about?
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I also had the opportunity last month in December to go to Baja, California.
Oh, the whale watching.
Yes, yes. So depending upon the time of year, you can see a lot of whales or not a lot of whales. But when we went, one of the most special parts was there was two things that really struck with me. Is I remember seeing the videos and talking to expedition leaders, and they kept talking about the sunsets and the sunrises. And I'll tell you, Jason and Scott, they are electric. I have never seen sunrises and sunsets like that. It was just amazing. And one sunrise, I remember, one of the guests brought his own electric guitar and started playing Here Comes the Sun. And you're like, wow, that was a big moment. But on the animal side, one of the things you do is there was 3 different snorkeling events while we were there. And I remember I was snorkeling with my wife, and they told us, hey, you might see sea lions. And I looked over at one point and I looked at my wife, and there is a sea lion circling all around her. It was like a Labrador retriever. And there was a moment, she's trying to take a picture, and I look, and you just see this sea lion's head right here next to my wife's looking at me. And I couldn't believe it, but one of my clients that was on board actually videoed the entire experience. And you're like, that's something that's not at a zoo. That's not at an aquarium. That was in the wild. And it was an incredible experience. And it really, for me, was a great reminder of, oh my gosh, nature's incredible. And to have those kind of real experiences, not curated, but something very much that, hey, you're just snorkeling, in the Sea of Cortez, and you had this incredible interaction with a sea lion, and it made you feel like you were at home with your dog.
That's amazing. I think that's a selling point in and of itself, because it's not like the zoo in captivity where you're taking the selfie from the other side of a cage.
Yes.
Or even if you're on any other ship, you're just looking from above the water, right, down into it. And to be able to get into it, I'm not really sure that I could say that everybody would be that excited to have a sea lion swimming around them, but apparently you and your wife are pretty comfortable with that.
Yes, they're very friendly. Very, very friendly.
Yeah, like a Labrador retriever.
Oh, yeah, just a big old... It's a good thing she didn't try to take one home.
Right, exactly.
That would have been hard to get through customs. Now, if we focus on the business side, because your job is to sell this experience, so let's talk about that a little bit, on the fact that it's kind of an emotional, educational, natural experience.
Yeah, I mean, much like with investments, I look at it that there's an investment product for the right guest, the right person. Same thing with vacations. And I think it really comes down to finding those types of people that would really appreciate this type of experience. One of the things that I was quickly, I learned was when I joined, I'll be honest with you, I had never in my life had any desire to go to Antarctica, ever. I felt like I was well-traveled. I've been, I've been to Europe a bunch of times, but with like Antarctica, I just never on my radar. Then you start talking to people that have gone. And it could be people that work for Lindblad. It could be guests that went. And I mean, I'm not kidding you. If you ask someone that's gone, no one is saying, it was okay. To quote my teenage daughter, it was mid. Everyone says it was transformational. It was life-changing. Best experience of my entire life. And it gives me goosebumps even just to say that, because that's not one person telling me that. That's hundreds of people telling me, hey, when we went to Antarctica, it changed my life. It transformed my thinking. And that type of emotion, you're not getting if you're doing most other types of travel. And so I think that's kind of the heart and soul of this company, that we want to take people to remote places on Earth where they can have that type of emotion, and go to places that are remote. And I think that's part of it. Being able to go to places where, there's not a Publix grocery store or a Hilton or a Marriott or an ice cream store or a t-shirt shop. There's nothing. It's you and nature. And I do think there's something very spiritual about that. I think there's something very calming about it. I think that's the reason why people are really drawn to expedition travel experiences.
Well, and you mentioned it, right? You're going to remote places on the planet, right? And to your point earlier, we all grew up on Marlin Perkins and Mutual of Omaha and National Geographic. These were things that we only could see, and to be able to go step on the continent of Antarctica, right? Amazing. Less than 0.10% of the population can probably say that, right? You're going to a place in the world, and again, it hasn't been touched by man per se, right? But maybe talk a little bit about, when you get there, it's not just those getting there and doing the experience, but there's individual submersion experiences within the trip that will resonate as well.
Yeah, I mean, wherever we go, we usually have 2 to 3 kind of activity periods. So that might include a hike. You could do a Zodiac ride, which is just a wonderful inflatable boat that we put you in, and you can go around the different areas where we go. You might even be in Antarctica and you can cross country ski. That's one of our options. So yes, we want to create these activities where you're able to be led by someone from National Geographic and be able to explore these areas in different ways. That could also include stand-up paddleboarding or kayaking, to be able to see these great areas.
Not in Antarctica, though? Stand-up paddleboarding?
Oh, no. But we do the polar plunge. We do kayaking down there in Antarctica. So it all comes down to, like in business, it's all about your risk tolerance. If you want to jump in and do the polar plunge, we offer it. If you want to kayak, we offer it. If not, that's fine too.
That is a real polar plunge too. I mean,
the opportunity to go walk around with emperor penguins, right? I mean, you think about all these different unique experiences that people can have. It's just amazing, right? And it's limitless, right? But you guys have really keyed into that. I got one question, though, and then this was a question that I had. So I did have an opportunity to potentially go to Antarctica, and it didn't happen. It will, but my number one question was, do I have to go through the Drake Passage?
That's a great question. So we offer the fact that you can fly the Drake Passage. And so the Drake Passage, for those that may not know, is that body of water between South America and Antarctica. And we do offer an option to be able to fly that passage and fly back, or also you can sail it. I mean, there's a lot of people who are like, hey, I want to be like the early explorers, and I want to get in there and sail it. So either way, what's kind of cool about sailing it, I talked to a colleague of mine who recently did it. That is our Polar Class 5 ships, the 2 that sail it. And what's special about that is you were able to get further south in Antarctica than you can with any other ship. So there are a lot of other lines that may go to Antarctica, but those bigger Polar Class 5 ships are purpose built to go further. So if that's an option for you, where you're like, hey, I want to go to places where people are definitely not going to in Antarctica, sailing the Drake Passage in those Polar Class 5 ships will get you further south.
And I believe they have a reinforced hull too for any ice that they encounter.
Yes. So that's something that's been very, very important to us. To be able to do that. And I think the other thing too that I found really interesting is that there are other cruise lines that may go down to Antarctica, but there's a threshold of people that if you have like 500 people on board, people can't get off the ship and go on the ice. So you literally are sailing by and you're waving, okay, hi penguins. But Lindblad was very purposeful, and they said, our ship there, our biggest ship will only be 148 guests. So everyone can get off on the ice if that's what they want to do and walk the ice.
Is that something that is controlled in Antarctica, limiting how many people per day? Is that the reason why?
Yes, as I understand.
And so, I mean, 148 guests. How many staterooms are on that?
I think that one's 80, 81.
Okay. Feel bad for the solo traveler. You got to bunk up.
Well, actually, Jason, it's interesting because we have a lot of solo rooms because there's a lot of people that, again, some of your advisors listening may have people that they've got spouses that may not want to travel or they lost a spouse and they still want to go to these great places. Well, we've got solo rooms, many of which in Antarctica have balconies. And so you can travel by yourself. And actually, about probably 10% of our guests are solo. So that's a big contingency for us. So it's not just that, oh, I have to go with my family or I have to go with my spouse. We welcome solo travelers.
Oh, that's great. I would think it'd be the ultimate unplug.
It
Sorry,
is.
out of the office in Antarctica.
Yes.
Talk to you when I get home.
Yes.
What are the ranges of cruises as far as timeline? How many days, shortest to longest?
Yeah, I mean, I would say generally on the water is about 7 days is kind of on average. We do have ones that are longer. 21 days might be one where you hit, it's a very popular one where you're doing South Georgia Island, Falklands, and then going to Antarctica. That's 21 days. I think we have one that's 69 days that goes from Japan through the Northwest Passage and goes to Iceland. So it kind of depends. But in general, usually you're on the water about 7 days, and then you might have a pre and post night stay. So maybe 10 days all in.
I saw that with, locally here in Detroit, there's a Viking cruise ship that goes around the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
And if you timed it right, you could take it basically from the Great Lakes to Antarctica when it was moving between.
Oh, from its seasonal rotation here down south.
Yeah, and it was just kind of funny to look at how many stops were on there and how long it would take. And
well, again, you are seeing like that is a kind of an interesting segment. Not really what you guys are doing, but the people who now are moving on to cruise ships or doing these 6 month, 1, 2, 3 year extended. I mean, that's a whole different animal right there. But it certainly has some cachet.
So one thing I was curious about is coming over to Lindblad, fully entrenched in the sales process. Are there any trends that keep coming up? Maybe, post-pandemic, is there any particular destination that seems to be more popular than others?
I would think first on the trend side, multi-generational groups. That's number one. It is, and that could be in many different ways. It could be the grandma that has got the money and got the time and wants to take her family on an incredible experience that they would not normally be able to afford. That's incredible because I think about my grandmother. Jason, you were asking about my origin story. The reason why I got into travel really is my grandmother took me to Walt Disney World, and it was very powerful. She called me up one day and it's like, I want to take you to Disney World. I'm like, all right, that sounds great. And so I think about the role of grandmothers and grandfathers in kind of the travel life of kids. And that could be it. Maybe a grandmother or grandfather is like, hey, I want to do something special with my family and do something small, do something on a 100-person ship that the kids, the grandkids will remember for the rest of their life. So that's a trend I see a lot of, not just for us, but just kind of throughout the cruise industry. And then I do think that, one of the things that we're excited to debut in 26 and 27 is we're going to be chartering ships that are doing the Rhine River and doing the Danube. So a lot of people know us for, traditional expedition where you're doing, going to the Arctic or going to Antarctica or Galápagos. But our guests are saying, hey, we've been there with you. We're other places. We want to go to Europe with you. And that's really special. So being able, we're chartering the Transcend Connect and the Transcend Evolve, which are brand new purpose-built ships for river, very high end. And we're bringing our culturalists, our historians. So when we're going into these places, people are being led by National Geographic through Europe. And we're allowing people to bring their kids. We're not going to have traditional kind of our family program, but as a dad, the opportunity to know that my kids could learn from National Geographic is fantastic. So we see that as a big trend for us. We do Nile River, Amazon River. So we've been doing those for many years. So we're really, really excited to add the Rhine and the Danube in the coming years.
And travel right now is as hot as I can ever remember it being across the board, right? So you think it's just coming up. 6 years ago, the world shut down. The travel industry was at the forefront. Cruise ships were parked. No one was traveling. And now we fast forward to all of this that's happening. So maybe talk about some of the things that you think were beneficial coming out of COVID. And then what is Lindblad and National Geographic doing to lean into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like there was a pent up demand for every kind of segment within the travel industry of, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I want to be with family. I want to be reunited. I want to have great times. I want to create great memories. And I think that's something that, everybody was really well positioned for. And I think, again, for Lindblad, I think our strength is that we're going to remote places and we're doing it with fewer people. I think the ability to go to these places and it's in small groups is really appealing to people who do want to have this experience, which is much more immersive. Because maybe coming out of COVID, they went on the big ships, so they went to the big hotels, and now they're like, hey, I want to do something a little bit more intimate.
I would imagine so. And, one thing that you always hear with the big cruise ships, locals get upset because there's this 6,000 person ship coming into port, and it's pandemonium when they get off for a few hours. But Lindblad is very involved in conservation in a lot of your destinations. So let's maybe touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and it comes down to something that I was really impressed to learn is that this company was started in 1958 by Lars Erik Lindblad. And the reason why he founded it was he said, I want to take people to the most remote places on Earth so they'll feel impassioned to protect them or talk about them. And that's a through line that you see throughout this company. And part of that was he took the first group of tourists ever to Antarctica in 1966, and then in 1967 to the Galápagos. And I bring that up because I found it unbelievable that he gets to the Galápagos, takes the first group of tourists there, and realizes, oh my gosh, they don't really have an infrastructure of creating kind of a national park to protect the Galápagos. And so out of his own pocket, he funded the first two, like what became like their park rangers to protect the Galápagos. And that's really amazing because that's been around now for 60 years. And that's because of what Lars Erik did. So that kind of tradition, wherever we go, we are very respectful of the environment. And from a business perspective, we're there to support the local economies. So when we are, in, our regions of the world where we go, we are sourcing our food from local fishermen, from local bakers, from local farmers. So not only are we supporting those businesses, those potentially micro businesses, we're helping those communities. And a nice thing on the food side is you're going to have fresher food, right? We're not flying that in from Wichita. We're getting it from those places where we're going. And I think that's really special for our guests. And speaking of food, the other thing I thought was interesting when it comes to conservation was part of our food program is you sign up for what you want for dinner. So meaning you'll have breakfast, which is a nice, decent buffet. But before you leave, you sign up for, hey, what kind of dinner do you think you're going to want that evening? And generally, as you'd imagine, it's chicken, fish, steak.
Right.
And what's nice about it is you just have a tick box and just say, you can change your mind. But when you think about it, just that one little thing, if you've got a bunch of vegetarians on board, no one's going to have steak. But it gives us an opportunity that we can do a much better job of being able to prepare the right amount of food for the right number of guests.
Right, eliminates waste and...
Yeah, exactly. So we really shoot for zero waste because I know sometimes, and I've been on many big ocean cruises, and there's a point when you go up to those buffets and you see a lot of food and you're like, well, where does this end up going? And I think Lindblad's focus was, hey, what can we do to really reduce the amount of waste and just having people tick off what they want to eat. Again, if they change their mind, no problem, but at least it gives our culinary staff an idea of how much should we prepare to eat. So I think that's a small example of what we do, but our Lex NG fund, the Lindblad Expeditions National Geographic Fund, has contributed over $20 million to the places where we go. So it's really part of the ethos of our company, being able to help the environment and serve those local communities where we go.
Well,
That's incredible. What a backstory. I mean, just thinking about 1966, the first expedition to Antarctica, cruise expedition to Antarctica.
on the frontier of this type of travel, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, look, at the last thing that you guys also do really well is you're in that conservation, you're doing everything, but it's also part of the immersive experience. So you're not just eating food prepared that will taste similar to the local. You're eating the food that is prepared locally, right? And again, as we all know, the ingredients make a difference, but you know, incorporating that into it too for people who are adventurous eaters, right? Just having that local fresh fish, and in most cases, I'm pretty sure you might not see that fish anywhere else in the world, right? Depending on where you are or what you're getting access to. So it just adds to that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the flip side, Scott, if you've got dietary restrictions, that's great too. You know, let us know. And our chefs will come out and be able to say, okay, let's walk through precisely what your allergy might be, or and be able to make sure that all of your meals, you've got an option that makes your palate and make sure that everything works well for you. And I think that's something too, where we might serve something that might be something you may not have at home. You try it, but we also want to make sure that you have that comfort that, hey, while I'm on board, I'm going to be able to live up to the diet or the dietary restrictions that I have. And that's something that's really, really important to us, is kind of creating that experience for the guest.
Well, and that also could be, if not paying attention, you know, as someone who does have some dietary restrictions, that could ruin the trip.
Yeah, of course.
Right, as you think about it, and not just for you, possibly for the folks traveling with you. But, you know, it's a big part of that experience. And again, for people who do have issues and need to have restrictions, going on a vacation, I will tell you from experience, the number one stress is, what am I going to eat?
Yeah, of course.
That's why the buffet is appealing. On
I love the buffet.
Right?
It's my favorite place to go.
Yeah. all the food you can eat. You know, when I was looking through the ships and the offerings, the sailboats were pretty interesting. One, I think, is Marjorie Post's former sailing yacht that has been converted into, and I can't remember how many staterooms, but that seems like a different level of adventure travel as well, because you're going to have the listing and...
Yeah, I mean, that's what's really cool about Lindblad. So while we, you know, own and operate 12 ships, we will charter ships, I think 11 or 12 we charter, to create specific experiences for guests. So, you know, we'll charter ships in Egypt, we'll charter ships in the Nile, and then yes, the Sea Cloud, we will do that as well, to have those big, you know, sailing ships, because people still say, hey, I want that type of experience, but I do love having the National Geographic Lindblad staff to help educate me in these places where we're going. So it's a really neat collaboration.
And I think I read the surface area of the sails on the Sea Cloud was like 35,000 square feet or something.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
That would be incredible to see.
I mean, cruising down the Nile is one thing. Sailing down the Nile?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, again, you said, but there's a vacation for everybody. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, Scott, you're signing up. Brent sold a cruise already.
Let's do
This
it.
is how successful this has been.
I'm a big fan of the experience, right? And you kind of brought it about with the kids. So, you know, our kids are 2 years apart. When they were 10 and 12, we were with your old company. We did an Adventures by Disney. Curated all sorts of activities every single day. We went to Yellowstone. We were in Jackson Hole. We spent time on a dude ranch with morning activities. You could do horse riding, right? And it was like worried, like, is this worth the money? To this day, I'll never forget leaving Detroit Metro Airport at 1 o'clock in the morning, returning from the trip, and a 10 and 12-year-old not on their phone saying, "Dad, that was the coolest thing."
Wow. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So ever since then, my kids are now 18 and 20, and it's been more about that experience, right? So I'm all for it. I love going to different places. I love going to unique places. And yes, my goal, Brent, is I would love to go to the Galápagos and Antarctica. Those are definitely two bucket list places for me.
You know, and I'm assuming a lot of couples, at least one, is that way. and what we talked, a few episodes ago when we talked to Jen Lee about what, part of the travel advisor and what they're working on is working with the couples to find the right vacation for them. And I wonder how the one spouse convinces the other that this is what they want to do.
Well, and if it's a solid relationship, there might be a little yin and yang, right? You're going to have to go on your vacation, and the next one might have to be mine.
Right.
Right, as you kind of think about it. But also with the cruises, and especially as you go up in the luxury, what I've started to recognize is even though you might be on for a specific reason, there are still things on the ship and activities to do that can cater to multiple. Right. So I think, what they're doing for, whether it's, entertainment, maybe not going to be on Lindblad, but I think that, on having someone, I'm sure you have guest speakers, right? You said you're bringing on National Geographic researchers, right? So maybe you want to go see the stuff. The other person wants to talk to them.
Yeah.
Right. So it is a unique situation.
Or it could be one's into the science aspect, one's into the historical aspect. So you can get two different flavors.
So like you brought up the sunsets and the sunrise, right? But I will tell you, I want to see the night sky, right? Because we don't get the opportunity unless you live in certain parts of this country to see the sky with zero light pollution, to see what it is supposed to look like, right? And I think it's eye-opening for people to realize, what really is in the sky. We just don't see it every day because we live in cities, right? And we have to deal with that light pollution. But I think I would add that, right? That nighttime on a full moon on a cloudless sky would be amazing.
Yeah, I had those moments when we were in Baja, California last month, where when you don't have that light pollution and you see what the stars are meant to be. Again, I think that's where it goes back to that, having an experience that's calming and really kind of shifts your whole focus on, wow, this is really out there. There's destinations like this around the world, and I think that's where people are looking to experience those.
So, Brent, I think because we've taken enough of your time, but I like to get into a rapid fire Q&A at the end of these. And you've probably seen some of those as you've listened to some of the episodes, but I think I'll let Scott kick it off.
All right, so this is just a random selection of things that we'll see if we can get some quick responses out of you. So we're going to put you not too bad on the spot, but obviously we want to get your opinion. So, biggest surprise since coming to Lindblad?
Just my biggest surprise is how the guest reaction has been. As I mentioned, to hear the words transformational, life-changing, it was really inspirational. I had no idea that people would react that type of way to a vacation. And to me, that was the biggest aha in my time here at Lindblad.
Favorite Lindblad destination and why?
I would say the one I talk about the most is Antarctica. I think again, from my perspective, I've yet to go. Hopefully I'll get to go this year. What I think is fascinating is I used to think, it's just one big giant block of ice. What's cool is there's kind of seasons of Antarctica. There is the November, December timeframe, which is where you go to see the ice. And you've got these, much like my background here, where you've got these, skyscraper-sized icebergs. And you've got that matched with the silence. But then you get January, February, March, and that's when the baby penguins are born.
Happy feet.
Yes. So you get two different experiences with a place. And I think that's something that I would never have thought of. And so living in flat Florida, I love mountains. I love ice and snow. And so the ability to see that in November, December is something I'd really like to do. But then being able to know, oh my gosh, it'd be so cool to see that kind of cycle of life in the January, February, March timeframe. So that's a place I'd really, really like to go. And that's definitely a destination that our guests really request.
All right, we've touched on the hot spots, right? We've multiple mentions of Galápagos and Antarctica. What do you think is the most underrated expedition experience and travel right now?
Oh gosh, it's a good question. I had a colleague of mine just go to Patagonia in South America, and she is somebody who's been in the expedition business for 20 years. And she came back saying this was the best place I've ever been on ever. And just seeing her pictures were just fantastic. So Patagonia, I think Greenland, Iceland. There's we go there. We hit both of those destinations on the same expedition. I think those are ones that are pretty exciting. And then even to be honest with you, something closer to home, Alaska. We get a lot of people that go to Alaska, and there's a couple of advantages to share. Is that again, number one, you're going on a small ship, so you're not competing with 3,000 people. So when you're on a small boat, you're able to get into those channels and those nooks and crannies that you can't get on with a big ship. Number two, our ships are flagged US that are in Alaska, meaning you don't have to start or stop in Canada. So you're flying right into Juneau or right into Sitka. And then the last part is, because of that, you also get our National Geographic staff with you the entire week. So they're the ones who are taking you on the hikes, and they're the ones taking you on kayaks. And what I like about that is maybe you saw a grizzly bear and that's something you've always wanted to do, and you want to talk to our expedition leader later. Great. Have a cup of coffee with that person and talk to your heart's content about grizzly bears. And so I think Alaska is one too, where maybe people have gone to Alaska before, but on bigger ships. Now they want to take their family and have a more immersive experience. I think that's another one too that we see big demand for.
Well, that size of ship, right? Same deal in Alaska that you were going to have in Antarctica, right? You were going to be able to get into different places if you want to sail up and get into Ketchikan and some of the areas on the interior part of Alaska, right? That's that advantage you guys now bring to the table of, hey, we're not just on the outside of Alaska and then flying you in or Kodiaking you in. The ship is inside some of these, well, I guess, fjord-looking areas in Alaska.
Yes.
And I'd be curious, so I guess I'm adding a little color to this question, but for first-time expedition travelers, what would be kind of something that they end up loving that they didn't think about before?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think any one of our experiences people would love. I think because we've been doing this for 60 years, we're really intentional in what we do. And so I think that maybe it's the Galapagos. That's one that draws in a lot of first-time guests. But then people may say, hey, you know what? I live on the Pacific Northwest. I'd rather try Alaska. Or going down to Baja, California. When I went there, I was really surprised to learn that there are direct nonstop flights to Laredo, where we launch from LA, LAX, from Dallas, and from Phoenix. So if you're in those markets, gosh, you could just get on a direct nonstop flight to Laredo and take your first expedition. So those might be, pretty interesting for a first time. And then you can build up maybe to, doing the Arctic or doing Antarctica.
All right. This one is a little bit more of, I'll start the statement and you're going to finish it. Luxury travelers most underestimate.
Yeah. Our intentionality. One of the things I was really impressed with is that, just going back to my trip to the Galapagos, it includes with our fare, it does include a pre-night stay at a nice hotel. And I remember we came out of customs. There were two people from Lindblad there that greeted us, put us in a Sprinter van and took us to our hotel personally. While we were in that Sprinter van, they helped us fill out all the paperwork. Both of those people got out, showed us and walked us to check in, and then showed us, hey, tomorrow morning, this is exactly where we're going to have breakfast. And then we put our luggage outside of our hotel room door. And that luggage magically appeared in our cabin. And then on the same thing on the way back is that they don't just drop you off at the airport, say, okay, enjoy your flight back to Detroit. They physically walk you to check in at the airline and then physically walk you to the security desk. And I thought that was so special. That costs no more money. But for those people that may be thinking, oh my gosh, well, I don't know about going these foreign places. I don't know, I'm scared. No, you've got people there every step along the way. So to me, Scott, that's luxury. When you've got people that are there to help you, there that are being very intentional about how your experience is, that to me is luxurious.
I would tend to agree. I think that's an incredible incredible feature to have, an asset to have when you're going on traveling to a new place with new people.
Well, and again, it's, it's the same thing when, we keep bringing back Jen. She keeps getting shout outs, but, it's the part of the travel at the travel advisor, right? Lindblad is layering on top of that, right? In our industry, we might call that stacking alpha, right? As people think about it, it's not just the advisor putting it in, but they're going to come to you because you're going to deliver the experience. You're going to take care of their people. They're not going to have to worry about things. And these are the people like, hey, I want to do this trip, but I don't want to deal with the particulars.
And I mean, a 60-year history of doing trips just like this
Amazing.
Is incredible, because think of all the stuff Lindblad learns through all of those years of experience and how they evolve what that looks like for the guest.
And I think one of the things that I was surprised to see too is, some people may say, oh my gosh, I'm not fit to do expedition. And what I really liked about it is, even when we have these activity periods, we always have activities for all ability levels. So it might be, hey, we're just going to do a sunset walk along the beach. But there might be another activity where it's like, you're walking up a mountain. And what I like about it is, the night before, we bring the entire ship together. That's what you can do when you're on a small ship. Bring everybody together. We talk about the activities the next day and what those options are. We show you pictures. We describe them. So it kind of takes the anxiety out, where you're like, oh, okay, I'd rather just do a Zodiac ride around the island where we're going to be. Or maybe I want to go snorkeling. But I think that's something, again, when it comes to intentionality, it is, and that what we have learned is, we need to have a variety of activities for everyone. We also have to describe them so people really feel comfortable about what their choices are. And I think that's something that we really try to limit the surprises, because even in investing, you don't want surprises. And same thing on your vacation.
No,
Unless
nobody likes
surprises to the up.
Yeah. Nobody likes surprises. If anyone's interested in getting in touch with you or getting in touch with Lindblad, where can they reach out?
Yeah, I'd say two things. I mean, number one, you touched on travel advisors, and I hear so many people saying, travel agents, they're still around? And I laugh, because it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And what I've seen, very similar to financial advisors, is that they are experts in guiding you to the right expedition, the right experience, the right vacation for you and your family and the people that are in there. So feel free to reach out to your local travel advisor. They also oftentimes have pre-negotiated deals that you cannot get if you go direct. So that's number one, travel advisors. Number two is, if you want to learn more about Lindblad expeditions, feel free to go to expeditions.com, and you can go there and take a look at all the different options that we have. We've got incredible pictures, incredible videos. It's really, really inspirational. Once you start clicking on those videos, it's pretty special.
Well, and I would definitely go there and sign up, because I think you get the magazine. I definitely get the Lindblad National Geographic magazine. It's like looking at the old National Geographic, except this time they're trips, but the pictures are amazing, and the way they lay the trips out, right? And it's just every year you get a new one, and there's another set of experiences, and then they'll put out, hey, this is coming in 27. This is what we're looking at in 28. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, Brent, we really appreciate your time. This was fascinating, and hearing about your journey to Lindblad was incredible. I bet you're excited to get on your next expedition. What do you think?
Well, I appreciate both of you. Thank you.
What do you think's your next target? Is that Antarctica?
Yeah, they mentioned, we just had a sales meeting last week, and they're like, think about where you'd like to go. So Antarctica, Iceland, I'd really like to do. The Iceland, Greenland, I think would be really, really special to go. But anywhere we go, it's exciting to me, because I would never have been there. And so, wherever it takes me in 2026, I'll be happy to go.
All right. Well, that's great.
Well, I'll leave you with this, and begrudgingly, being here in the Detroit metro area, you are still representing the NFC North. So
I'm a diehard Bears fan.
The Bears have been through a lot, right? And then let's see what happens this coming weekend.
We will see, but I will always treasure Aiden Hutchinson singing a Billie Jean during training camp. I have watched that video probably 50 times, put it in the Louvre. That is something special.
Oh, that is one of my favorite videos of him. He's just unbelievable
Well,
person.
and I think that was easily the highlight of Hard Knocks that season.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, that probably converted so many people over to be Detroit Lions fans.
Yes.
Well, Brent, great having you on, and wish you the best in 26. And we'd love to maybe have you come back after you've actually been to Antarctica, because I think hearing your experience might be pretty interesting.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.